Drive southeast from Hull for 20 miles and you'll find yourself on this road, a road that can take you to one place only, to Spurn Point, a narrow 3.5-mile spit of sand and shingle that pokes a crooked finger a third of the way across the mouth of the River Humber. The first impression of Spurn is hardly a cosy one. The second impression is an abomination of desolation. Not a single tree in sight, and even the withered grass and starved scrubby bushes are understandably discouraged by the icy winds that blow off the sea for most of the winter. Even the surrounding shoals and shallows have forbidding names, whose for a jolly cruise round the stony binks and down the greedy gut. But they say that it's lovely here in the summer. They say that hundreds of holidaymakers pay 2 shillings each for the privilege of sitting on these sands. And if it had been left alone, it is possible to imagine that the place did once have a certain bleak charm, even in winter. But what was naturally a plain dish, man has very nastily garnished. He's built things and then left them to rot and fall down. Spurn Point is scattered with dozens of empty, half-ruined buildings that add an air of neglect to its bleak emptiness. Shifting sand is the secret of Spurn Point. It's the reason why it exists. The whole 3.5-mile bank has been built up over hundreds of years from the sand and shingle eroded from the coast and deposited here. And once it's arrived, the sand hasn't necessarily come to stay. Over the centuries, the whole of Spurn Point has danced an infinitely slow and grave gavotte with the ocean. It's retreated and advanced and sidestepped to the rhythm of the waves, and changed its position so much that it's even had different names at different times. When Henry IV landed here, he called it Ravenspur. Before that, it was Ravenspur Odd, then it was Ravenspur Spurn. Now it's plain Spurn Point. But it hasn't stopped moving. Since 1930, it's advanced about 100 yards, and nobody knows where it'll go to next. But that doesn't seem to worry the people who live here. Oh yes, there are actually people who live on this wind-blasted strip of shingle all the time. And they're not in the services. They don't have to live here. They've chosen to live here to man the Spurn Point lifeboat. This is the only lifeboat in the British Isles manned by a full-time crew. It has to be full-time because it's so remote here that it's impossible to get a part-time local crew. There are 9 lifeboatmen, and together with their wives, dependents and children, they make up a community of 35. There's no bus service, and though some of the men have cars, they don't use them much because there can never be more than 2 of them absent at any one time. On Spurn Point, you must wait for the world to come to you. And in winter, the world means the postman and the baker and the milkman. The school bus twice a day. And the dustman. But his visit's a special treat. It happens only once a week. Once a week, too, there's a service at St Andrew's Church, and attendance must be a British all-comers record. In a place where there are no secrets, there are no excuses either. Of course, when the bell in the coxswain's yard does ring out an emergency, everything is action. But that happens less and less frequently nowadays, and the men have more and more time to fill. Efficient weather forecasting and modern navigational aids keep most shipping out of trouble. It's only in the summer, when the amateur yachtsmen get afloat, that work interferes much with gardening. Meanwhile, down on the seashore, the second coxswain is grimly facing up to another hard day's leisure, in conditions that would discourage a less determined man.
What is the fishing like, Mr. Alcock?
Well, it's very quiet just at present. We're just getting odd ones.
Well, if the fishing's not very good, what do you do up here?
Well, there's lots of little things we can do. Most of us have got little hobbies. We've all got cars for tinkering about with. Yeah. Well, not for tinkering about with cars, but, you know, to keep them going, keep them greased.
All right, there's fishing. You can keep your car greased. Let's say that takes up an hour of the day or a couple of hours of the day.
Yeah.
What else do you do?
Well, we've got gardening. Go for beachcombing around the point. More or less anything after our own normal working hours.
I understand your official working hours are 4 hours a day.
Officially 4 hours a day, yes.
But can you really fill 4 hours a day with constructive work up here?
Not really. Not really at all.
Do you think that it's the kind of life that makes you lazy? I mean, do you think that if you went somewhere else and you had to work a 9-to-5 job, you really hate it?
No, I don't think so, because if you're going to be lazy, you'll be lazy anyway. We say you can be lazy in the middle of London, anywhere else. If it's in your nature to be lazy, it doesn't matter where you are.
Well, I think you have to live at the point to appreciate the pleasures that you can get from being here.
Like what?
Well, it's really ideal in the summer, and there's really no place in England that you could say was ideal for the winter, could you?
Yeah, no, I agree, but this is less ideal than most, I would have thought. I mean, today in particular, when it's snowing and it's... Didn't you find it a bit miserable?
Well, no, I have a family to look after, which occupies me during the daytime, and in the evening I'm always very satisfied to sit and watch television and such like.
Well, don't you ever envy the housewives who've got the supermarket just round the corner?
Oh, I hate the thoughts of supermarkets. I much prefer to pick up the telephone and give my grocery order over there.
Don't you look forward to going into Hull,
Well, it's very nice once a month, but I'm always pleased to get back to the point.
How difficult is it to get people to come up here?
Well, there's no difficulty at all to get people to get down here. If any of the crew happens to leave, we can always find somebody to take their place.
What do you think it is that appeals to them?
Well, I don't know. It may be the job, or and maybe anybody who's newly married, they come down to get the house with the job.
You say it may be the job. Do you mean by that it may be that the job is not all that taxing?
Oh, no, well, it is taxing winter months if you get a bad night.
Is it at all difficult to keep the morale up, to keep people happy out here?
No, well, the people that come down here, they've got to be people that will suit in a lonely post. The wives have got to see the job, see the place that they're coming to, and fit in with the rest of the people who's down here.
Do you think it's more important that the wives like it than the husbands like it?
Well, the wives is the most important. If they're not happy down here, well, the husbands are not happy, and then we've got to get somebody else to take their place.
Mrs. Sears, you're the latest recruit to Spurn. What are your first impressions after being here, 7 weeks now?
Well, I don't really like it. I don't think anybody could.
What is the main difference between living here? What do you miss most of all, do you think?
Well, I think going out shopping, you can't go to the shops and meet different people. It's always the same people over and over again.
What do you do with yourself in your spare time?
Well, I like knitting and that, but I don't know, really. Time just goes. You don't bother to do much because it just isn't worth doing anything, being out here. You just sort of let your work go and think, oh, well, I'll do that another day.
Oh, do you find that you don't do your housework as quickly?
No, you can't get on as quick as what you would do. Because, I mean, you've got somewhere to go. You think, oh, I've got my shopping to do. I'll get on and get done.
Yeah.
But here, there's no shopping to do. So you think, oh, well, I'll do this and I'll leave that till tomorrow and this, that, and there's nowhere to go.
And the whole pace of life sort of slows down.
Yeah, yes, you do. You slow down, absolutely. You just can't get on. In fact, sometimes I've been quite frustrated because I've wanted to get on and I can't. You just can't.
What are the sort of high points of your social life out here during the week?
Trust you to answer. Oh, well, I got out this afternoon. And I got on a Tuesday afternoon as
What
well.
do you do?
Sewing.
Sewing?
Yes.
Well, now, the sewing circle, you all sit round and sew, and you
have a chat and
have a
cups
chat.
of tea.
Yeah. And what was the other one, the other activity you mentioned?
Oh, it's soft furnishings.
It's
soft furnishings, yes. You make cushion covers and lampshades and things like that.
Oh, I see. And you sit round and...
Same again. Have a chat and cups of tea.
Yeah.
Sociologists and psychiatrists tell us that one of the problems we face in the future is the problem of leisure. How are people going to fill all their spare time as the working week gets shorter? But it seems to me that the sociologists may be overestimating the problem. If the lifeboatmen of Spurn Point can fill all their leisure time here, then anywhere else, anywhere, must be a piece of cake. Good night.